Hey friend, thank you for joining me again today on my front porch. It's so nice to have you here with me. My name is Tracy, and I just want to chat with you today. You hear that frog? I think the frog has lost his cue because that is a rain frog and it has not rained today. And it doesn't look like it's going to rain today. But anyway, maybe you're thinking about getting started into this adventure. For us, it's a lifestyle of milling wheat and making bread. And maybe you have some concerns, some things that you're paranoid about. And I just want to give you some food for thought and hopefully help you thought process through those emotions that you have or the feelings you have, thoughts that you're having about this, and maybe give you some peace of mind as you're thinking through this. Because first of all, I know that if you are going to do this, you are about to drop some money to start doing this for your family. So I know that you may be paranoid. You're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to spend all this money and then it end up not working like I hope that it will work. So let me just give you some of my some thoughts that may help you out. One of your concerns may be that you're afraid that you are not going to be able to successfully make products with freshly milled wheat flour. If you've done any kind of research at all, you've probably seen where people have made a comment about there's a learning curve. It's different. The flour is different. It's going to take some getting used to. And so maybe you're paranoid because you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. Trust me. You can do it. Yes, it is definitely different. The flour is different, but don't worry. You can absolutely handle it. There is a bit of a learning curve, but there are a lot of great resources on the internet that you can find, videos on YouTube that will help guide you as you're starting this process. I remember when I began years ago, YouTube was, I don't even know if YouTube existed. I know I certainly didn't research it on YouTube to try to figure out what to do. I just had to get in the kitchen and go for it. But there's definitely a lot of videos that you can look for, that you can get guidance on how to go about being successful with this. So do your research and just get in the kitchen and go after it, and don't be afraid of failure. Yes, you may very likely not be successful the first couple of times, but that's okay. I know I wasn't. And even if you're not successful, try again. You can absolutely do it. Okay, the second thing you might be concerned about is, okay, you want to do it. You know that you want to do this for your family and for yourself because you know that is the healthy thing to do, but maybe you're concerned about getting your spouse on board or getting your children on board or whoever else on board that lives in your house that you'll be cooking for or who will be eating your cooking. So maybe that is something that you have a bit of a concern with. I feel you. I do encourage you to explain to them the benefits that come with eating the freshly milled wheat flour. There's lots of vitamins. It's got the good for you fiber because it is a whole grain. It's going to feed you those healthy vitamins that you need. I'm not going to go into the scientific side of all of that right now, but it's good for you. It is healthy, and with that, you're going to feel better. One thing, my children are not big vegetable eaters. Now, as my oldest son is growing, his palate is definitely expanding. He'll eat salads and he eats more vegetables than my younger son, but that's one thing that's nice about eating this kind of bread is because if I have one of those meals where I don't put a vegetable with it, they don't eat them anyway. So, I'll give them some to try, but if they don't eat a lot of it, it's okay because I know that they're getting the benefits from the bread. Another tip whenever you're starting to transition your family from processed foods to freshly milled wheat foods is to not do the drastic change in their diet all at one time. So a lot of the recipes that you're going to see, they're going to say use honey instead of processed sugar. One thing you might want to remember is that everything that you buy at the store that has sweetener in it, it's going to have, unless it specifies differently, it's going to be sweetened with white sugar. So if you start making bread with honey and they're used to white sugar, it's going to taste completely different to them, and they're less likely to like it. So I recommend that you gradually move your family into eating the freshly milled wheat breads and the healthier ingredients that go with that. So instead of honey, you may actually want to use white sugar. And then once they get used to the freshly milled wheat flour, then start to wean them off the white sugar into the honey or whatever other sweeteners you want to use. I personally use sugar in the raw just because it is a little less expensive than the honey, and also too, it just behaves better for me than the honey does. I can get more consistent results with it. The honey is certainly the better ingredient. So the idea there is just to gradually introduce them into all the ingredients that you want them to eat. Don't sticker shock them all at one time. I would even recommend that you start with hard white if you're going to be making bread and you're trying to decide if you want to use red or white flour. I personally recommend that you start with the white. The red has what a more robust or a more nutty flavor. It's a stronger, not in a bad way. Well, my kids would say it's bad, but I do recommend that you start with the white flour. Now, what I do now is I do red with a combination of white. Okay, and then maybe you're paranoid that it's just gonna taste bad. I really don't think that you're going to think it tastes bad. Now, I will tell you, when I first did this, I was so excited I was going to make biscuits one morning. And because I made bread and it tasted so good, I knew that the biscuits had to taste great. And so I got up, I remember one morning, I got up to make breakfast before the day starts to make biscuits, and they tasted awful. I remember we were all just disappointed because they were not good. And the reason why is because we just hadn't really adapted our palate yet to those freshly milled wheat grains. Even muffins to me at first were not as good because you still have that white flour mentality in your brain. So start easy. Start with bread, and then maybe start with something like the chocolate muffins that I have the recipe for. Those are great. Pancakes, those go over really well. Waffles, that's another good one. So gradually move your family from just the basic ingredients to then the other things where you can start swapping out, like a pound cake, for example. Cookies are really good. That's another good, easy ingredient or recipe to make that transition. And if needed to, you could do half processed flour, half freshly milled wheat flour to help get your family on board and to start moving them from the processed foods to the freshly milled wheat ingredients. Another tip for you is if you're working to transition your family, don't give up on them. Just because they may not like it one meal, that doesn't mean that you need to give up and never serve it to them again. This type of bread does not stay fresh long. I remember one time I fed my kid my chocolate muffins, the one that I have a recipe for on the channel. They were just old. I shouldn't have fed them to him. They really needed to go in the trash. And I thought, well, I'll heat them up and they'll be fine. And ever since then, he does not want to eat muffins that are more than a day old because he had them that one time. They were not good. And now it's like stuck in his brain that the old muffins aren't good. And that's not the case. I just made a poor decision as a mom to try to like sneak them by him and him eat them anyway. And he said no. And so now he's apprehensive about eating anything that's more than a day old. So just use good judgment. Remember that your bread has a much shorter shelf life than your processed foods. So if it's more than a couple of days old, you may need to throw it out. And don't feed your family old bread. Okay, if you have any questions or comments or other concerns that I didn't think about, feel free to ask me. I'll be glad to answer them for you. And if I don't have an answer, I will try to find the answer to that question for you. All right, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great afternoon. And if you don't mind, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. that would help me out tremendously. And we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.